She called the cops and screamed, "He can't live here! This is HOA land!" I was still holding the keys to my new house when she said that. The moving truck was behind me. My little daughter was sitting on a box eating chips. My wife was inside checking the kitchen. And this woman, perfect hair, tight smile, phone already recording, was standing on my driveway like she owned it. "You bought this house by mistake," she said. "This neighborhood belongs to the HOA. You didn't get approval." I looked at the sign at the end of the road. It clearly said the HOA boundary stopped 2 streets back. "I'm not in your HOA," I told her calmly. She laughed like I just told a joke. "Sweetheart, we decide who lives near us." That was the first time I understood what kind of person she was. She introduced herself as Linda, but everyone on the street called her Karen, and not in a nice way. She stepped closer to me and lowered her voice. "You have until tomorrow to leave, or we'll take it by force if we have to." My daughter heard that. I felt something twist inside my chest, but I stayed quiet, because I already knew something she didn't. The house I bought? It wasn't just a random property outside her HOA. It used to belong to my grandfather, and he never sold land without a reason. Karen walked around my truck filming my license plate. "Non-approved vehicles aren't allowed here." "This isn't your street," I said again. She snapped, "The builder made a mistake. That land should have been ours. We tried to buy it years ago." Tried. That word stayed in my head. A neighbor across the road quickly went back inside when she noticed me looking. Nobody wanted trouble. I could see that already. Karen made a phone call right there. "Yes, dispatch? There's a trespasser refusing to leave private HOA property." Trespasser. On my own driveway. My wife came outside then. She didn't say much. Just watched Karen carefully. Calm. Too calm. Karen smirked at her. "Oh, good, the whole family's here. That makes eviction easier." "Eviction?" I almost laughed. Police showed up 10 minutes later. Real ones. Karen ran to them first. "Officer, I've been telling him this land is under our HOA authority. He's refusing to cooperate." The officer looked at me. Then at the deed folder still tucked under my arm. "You the homeowner?" he asked. "Yes, sir." He asked for ID. I handed it over without shaking. Karen crossed her arms. "He doesn't have HOA approval." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, HOA approval isn't required unless the property is part of the HOA. "It is!" she shouted. The officer checked his tablet for a long moment. The air went quiet. Finally, he said, "According to county records, this address is outside your HOA boundary." Karen's face changed. Just for a second. "That's impossible," she whispered. "It's not," the officer replied. "He's legally allowed to be here." For a moment, I thought it was over. But then Karen stepped closer to me, her voice shaking with anger. "You think this is finished? You don't understand how things work around here." I met her eyes and said softly, "Oh, I understand more than you think." She leaned in so only I could hear. "You'll regret buying this house." And then she smiled for the camera she was still holding. What she didn't know was this. The land she wanted so badly? It connects to something underneath. Something the HOA has been trying to get access to for years. And tomorrow morning, I was planning to open it. Karen didn't sleep that night. I know that because at 6 a.m., before the sun fully came up, she was already standing near my fence talking to 2 men in suits. I was watching from the upstairs window. They weren't neighbors. They were from the HOA board. One of them pointed toward my backyard. The other kept shaking his head like something wasn't going according to plan. My wife came behind me quietly. "They're nervous," she said. "Good," I replied. By 8 a.m., the street felt different. Curtains moved. Cars slowed down when passing our house. Word had spread fast. I walked into the backyard carrying the old metal box my grandfather left me years ago. I never opened it until last week, right after we signed the closing papers. Karen saw me and immediately marched over. "You're not allowed to dig," she snapped. I hadn't even picked up a shovel yet. "This is private property," I said calmly. "Mine." She laughed again, but it sounded forced this time. "You really think you can just show up and change things? That land was promised to the HOA development. Your grandfather agreed." There it was. "You sure about that?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. The 2 board members walked over. One of them cleared his throat. "Sir, we're prepared to make you an offer. A generous one." I didn't answer. Instead, I placed the metal box on the patio table and opened it. Inside were old documents, maps, and a sealed envelope with the county stamp still on it. Karen's face went pale. "How did you get that?" she whispered. "It was always ours," I said. One of the board members stepped forward quickly. "That document is outdated." "Is it?" I pulled out the folded map and spread it on the table. It showed the full property lines from 50 years ago. Not just my house, not just the yard, but the wooded strip behind it, and the small lake at the edge of their precious HOA community. Silence. "You see," I said slowly, "when the developer tried to buy this land from my grandfather, he refused. But he made a deal instead." Karen's hands were shaking now. "That lake belongs to the HOA residents." "Not exactly." I pointed at the boundary line on the map. "The lake touched their neighborhood, but the access road to it ran straight through my backyard. And according to the recorded easement agreement inside that sealed envelope, the HOA never completed the required payment to secure permanent access, which meant the agreement expired. Years ago." Karen stepped back like I slapped her. "That's not possible," she said. One of the board members looked at the paper closer. His face drained of color. "It was filed with the county," I added. "Which means, starting today, access is closed." "You can't block the lake," Karen shouted. I looked at her calmly. "I can. That lake was the main selling point of their entire neighborhood. Fishing, kayaking, 4th of July fireworks reflected on the water. Property values depended on it. And now, the only legal road to it belonged to me." Karen's voice turned sharp. "We will sue you. We will bury you in legal fees." I smiled slightly. "You sure you want to go to court?" She hesitated, because she didn't know one small detail yet. The lawyer who reviewed these papers for me, he used to represent the HOA, and he resigned last month, for a reason. Karen stepped closer again, lowering her voice so the board members couldn't hear. "What do you want?" That question told me everything. I leaned toward her and said quietly, "I want you off my property." Her eyes burned with anger. "You think you've won something? You have no idea who you're dealing with." She pulled out her phone again. "This isn't over," she said. "If we can't get that land legally—" She paused. Then she said the words slowly. "We'll take it another way." And that's when I noticed something strange. The construction cones, at the end of my driveway, blocking the access road. They weren't there last night. I walked to the end of my driveway slowly. Bright orange cones, fresh, still clean, and a big white sign stuck into the grass. "Private HOA access, no entry." I actually laughed. Karen followed behind me. "You see? The board voted this morning. That road is community access. You cannot block it." "You just told me the easement expired," I said. She smiled. "We renewed it." "When?" "This morning." That's when I saw it. A pickup truck parked across the street. 2 men in work boots sitting inside. Watching, waiting. I turned to the board member. "Renewed with who?" He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. You can't renew an easement without the landowner's signature. And I definitely didn't sign anything. Karen stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You're making a big mistake. That lake is the heart of this neighborhood. Do you really want to be the villain?" Villain. That word again. My daughter came outside holding her bike. She stopped when she saw the cones. "Daddy, why are they blocking our road?" Karen smiled at her. "Sweetie, that road doesn't belong to you." I felt my hands tighten. "It does," I said calmly. "And you need to remove those cones." She folded her arms. "Or what?" Before I could answer, a loud engine roared at the end of the street. A tow truck. It drove straight past Karen, straight toward my driveway. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. The driver jumped out and walked up to me. "Are you the owner of the black SUV?" "Yes." He checked his clipboard. "We got a request to remove it. Unauthorized vehicle blocking private HOA roadway." I stared at Karen. "You tried to tow my car?" She didn't blink. "It's illegally parked. It's in my driveway." The tow driver looked confused. "Ma'am, this address isn't showing under HOA authority." Karen snapped. "The paperwork is being updated." "Just hook it up." The driver hesitated. "I'm not towing without proper confirmation." Karen's face turned red. "Do you know who I am?" The driver shrugged. No, ma'am. I just know I'm not losing my license over a driveway. He got back in his truck and left. Karen was shaking now. Not scared, angry. You think this is funny? She hissed. I stepped closer to her but kept my voice low. You filed a false police report yesterday. You tried to illegally tow my vehicle today. That's 2 strikes. She smirked. Prove it. That's when my wife walked up behind us. She held up her phone. You're on camera, she said calmly. Every single thing since 6 a.m. Karen froze. The board members looked at each other nervously. You recorded us? Karen asked. It's my property, my wife replied. Security cameras. 4 angles. One of the board members whispered, Linda, maybe we should... Shut up, she snapped at him. There it was. The crack in her control. She turned back to me. You can't scare me with cameras. We have influence in this county. I nodded slowly. I know. And that's when I decided it was time. I walked back toward the patio table and picked up the sealed envelope I hadn't opened yet. Karen watched carefully. What is that? She demanded. I looked at her. You said my grandfather agreed to sell you this land. Yes, she said confidently. We have records. Then you should read this. I opened the envelope fully this time and pulled out the final document. It wasn't just about the easement. It was a restriction clause, filed with the county 50 years ago. The developer at the time tried to pressure my grandfather to join a future HOA, so my grandfather added one condition to the deed before selling the surrounding land, a permanent clause. No HOA authority could ever expand onto this property, not by vote, not by purchase, not by force. Karen grabbed the paper from my hand and scanned it quickly. Her face lost all color. That's not enforceable, she whispered. It already was, I said. Twice. She looked up sharply. What do you mean twice? I held her stare. The HOA tried to challenge it in court in 1998. The board member behind her went completely still. They lost, I continued. Quietly. Karen slowly turned toward him. You told me that case was dismissed. It was, he stammered. Dismissed after we lost. Karen's breathing changed. And then she exploded. You lied to me? He backed up. Linda, we thought you knew. She screamed so loud my daughter ran back inside. You said we could take it if we had to. She shouted at him. Silence hit the street like a wave. The neighbors were all watching now, and she had just said it, out loud. One of the board members whispered, This is bad. Karen realized what she'd done. She looked around at all the phones recording from windows. Her voice dropped to a whisper. This isn't over. Then she pointed at me. You have no idea what you just started. But as she walked back across the street, I noticed something else. The pickup truck with the 2 men? They were no longer just watching. They were unloading equipment. And it wasn't construction cones this time. They pulled out survey tripods, bright yellow ones. One of them started walking toward my fence like he had every right to be there. I stepped forward. You're on private property. The taller guy didn't even look at me. We're hired by the HOA to verify boundary adjustments. Adjustments? I repeated. Karen was halfway across the street, but she turned when she heard that word. A slow smile spread across her face again. County reassessment, she said loudly. Sometimes lines change. Lines don't just change. Not unless someone pushes for it. I crossed my arms. Show me the county order. The shorter surveyor hesitated. We were told it's in progress. In progress isn't approved, I said. Karen walked back, confidence returning. You really don't understand how development works. Once a majority vote passes, we can request emergency boundary review. It's for community benefit. Community benefit, I repeated. She nodded. The lake must remain accessible. One of the surveyors placed a small orange flag inside my yard. That was enough. Remove that, I said calmly. He looked at Karen. She nodded at him like a queen giving permission. And that's when I pulled out my phone. I didn't call the police. I made a different call. Yeah, I said quietly. They're here. Right now. Karen tilted her head. Calling your lawyer again? Not exactly. The surveyor pushed the flag deeper into the soil. That's when a black SUV turned onto the street. Not flashy, not loud, but official. The county seal was on the side door. Karen's smile disappeared. Two people stepped out. One older man with gray hair, one younger woman holding a tablet. The older man looked around slowly, then directly at Karen. "Well," he said, "this feels familiar." Karen swallowed. "Mr. Whitaker, I didn't expect you personally." "I didn't expect you to try this again," he replied. The surveyors froze. I stepped back quietly and let them talk. The younger woman looked at the flags in my yard. "Who authorized placement on this parcel?" Karen tried to regain control. "The HOA board voted this morning to initiate reassessment." Mr. Whitaker gave a small laugh. "You can initiate a request. You cannot alter boundary markers without approval." "It's procedural," Karen insisted. "No," he said firmly. "It's trespassing." The word hung in the air. Trespassing, the same word she used on me 2 days ago. The shorter surveyor slowly pulled the flag out of my yard. Karen's voice dropped. "You don't understand the importance of that lake?" Mr. Whitaker looked at her carefully. "Oh, I do. I was here in 1998. Her face went white again. "You were warned then," he continued. "The restriction clause on this property is ironclad. Any attempt to bypass it triggers automatic review." "Review of what?" Karen asked, but her voice was shaking now. The younger woman turned the tablet toward Mr. Whitaker. "Sir, it's already flagged." He nodded slowly. "As of this morning, the HOA's development permits are temporarily suspended pending investigation." The board members across the street went silent. "Suspended?" Karen whispered. "Until we verify whether the HOA knowingly misrepresented property boundaries to residents during sales," he said calmly. "And that's when everything shifted. Because if that lake access was never permanent, if the HOA knew it, that meant dozens of homeowners bought expensive houses under false information." Karen's eyes darted toward the houses behind her. Some doors were opening now. People stepping out, listening. One man shouted, "What do you mean suspended?" Another woman asked, "What investigation?" Karen turned toward them quickly. "This is just a minor paperwork review." Mr. Whitaker shook his head. "No, ma'am. This is a formal inquiry." The younger woman added, "If access rights were misrepresented, homeowners may have legal claims. Claims against the HOA, against the board, against the president." Karen's breathing got heavy. "You can't do this," she said softly. Mr. Whitaker looked at her the same way a teacher looks at a student who finally got caught cheating. "You did this," he replied. Silence spread across the entire street. For the first time, Karen looked scared. Not angry, scared. She slowly turned toward me. "This is your fault," she whispered. I met her eyes and said quietly, "You should have left my driveway alone." But just when it seemed like she had lost, a loud engine roared again at the end of the street. Not a tow truck this time. A construction excavator, and it wasn't stopping. End the story.